Welcome. I'm Tracy Crum, and this is our first McKnight Grants Fellowships for Fiber Artists info session for the 2021 fellowship year. So if it's okay with everybody, I would prefer, I'm going to just set out a few guidelines. It looks like we might have a manageable crew this evening. We originally had 38 people RSVP to the session, and I kind of thought, wow, this is going to be amazing to see how this goes. So we're going to I'm doing this from my home. Hi, everybody. Let's see, I'm doing this from home on my own. And so my plan is to use screen sharing to walk through the process and take as many questions as possible, because I think the questions really kind of help address most of the issues with this, because a lot of you have the same questions, and the questions always help the conversation. So I think what I would like to do is I'm playing with a few different formats. I think just because of the screen sharing situation, if you want to ask a question, would you send me a message through the chat room? Is that okay with everybody? And that way I can either read the question, or I can ask you to unmute yourself if it seems like there's going to be a little bit of back and forth. Okay, so to help navigate that, I think that's probably the best situation. Let's see. Okay, so all right, I think I'm just going to get started. So what I'm going to do, I set it up this year so that we would really just use the website kind of as our guide. I'm going to go through some of the basic parts of the application process, just to make sure everybody checks all their P's and Q's and dots their I's and crosses their T's. And then we can go into some questions about content and, the jury process, any of that sort of stuff, okay? So I'm going to start, can you see my screen sharing? Are you guys seeing screen sharing? Okay, so so I'm looking from a completely different perspective, but I am screen sharing. So if you are on whatever you're seeing on your computer screen, you should check your grid, how you're looking at your grid. What you should end up seeing are, you should allow screen sharing, and you should see two images. One will either be the singular person speaking or the group of people that are participating in the session. And then the second thing should be an image of my computer screen. Can folks get to that point? If I'm looking, because Marcia, I see you have a look on your face like you're not sure. How about, okay, Gregory, I see thumbs up. Claire, are you screen sharing? Can you see it? Excellent. Chris, how about you? Screen sharing, great. Are you good, Marcia? Okay. All right. So here's another way to do it. If you can't see what I see, just do your own thing on your computer so that you see your Zoom situation, and then pull up the Textile Center website. So right now, the McKnight application, the whole McKnight page application process is the second dot from the left in our banner now. They actually just changed it on me about 5 minutes ago, so I had to make a quick phone call and say, please don't do anything else to the website, because I got all my tabs set up and we're ready to go. So if you open up the website, you're either going to click on the second dot of the banner, or you can scroll down slightly and you see the McKnight Artist Fellowships, and you can click on it. Okay, so when you click on it, what happens is you end up at the McKnight Fellowship page. Okay, this is going to be the page where any updates about info sessions or, I don't know, changes, anything that you might need to know, it's going to be posted here. So I don't anticipate there are going to be very many changes. Any of the Zoom sessions will be listed at the top. The dates of the fellowship period are there. The application period dates are there. And then there is the next link you see is to access the application. And I'm going to suggest that you don't do that right now. I'm going to suggest that we're going to scroll down, because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through how the tabs are set up, just in case you need more information and you need to go back to it. And then we'll actually take a look at the guidelines and the application process and answer questions. So it hasn't changed much at all from last year. Those of you who have gotten into looking at the submittable application, really, we had a fairly flawless experience last year because we spent a lot of time setting it up. So I went through a whole series of updates, and I hope I caught everything. If you don't, if you see something that looks amiss or you have any questions, what I'm going to suggest right now is that I am the only contact person this year. Last year I had Rebecca home helping, and she's not at Textile Center anymore. So I am the key person, and my email address is tcrum@textilecentermn.org. And I believe I'll show you, it's on a number of different places on the website. So, and you can always call Textile Center to get a hold of me if you have questions. So the application tabs are set up about the same. There's the About the Fellowship, which is the very first tab, and it's really just sort of the fundamental points of what you get as a fellow, what the intent of the program is, and then a little bit of PR stuff. The second tab is now the eligibility tab, and it really goes through, I think, the 10 different points that you have to be able to check off in order to be able to be a viable applicant. I'm going to mention right now, I'm with a program cohort of, I don't know, it's probably about 14 of us now, but we're all the program directors on behalf of the McKnight Foundation. And so we share information all the time, and a number of questions have come up about the full-time student situation. You cannot be enrolled in a full-time academic program either during the application period or during the fellowship. Okay, so just in case that applies to anybody, or if anybody asks you, that is the word today from the McKnight Foundation. Let's see, the next thing, the next tab is the program guidelines, and we're actually going to go through these, not step by step, but I'll hit the key points so that so that you guys have a good place to start. And then the last tab is the info, important dates and the info session dates. So right now we are on this first particular Zoom session. There will be 2 additional sessions. I think I have set the dates for October 6th and October 22nd. The one on the 6th will happen at 6 p.m. I had a number of people ask if we could start the session a little bit later. That's what I'm going to do next time. October 22nd, I'm not sure. I'm just going to kind of wait and see how many people we get at the other sessions. And then I will be doing a final question and answer session on November 9th, which is a Monday night, for an hour at 6 p.m. So I'm going to try to stick to a hopefully understandable and easy to follow routine here this evening. Those of you who know me know that I tend to segue off into other things because they make me think about things. But with regard to that final Q&A session, the reason we're doing it so close to the deadline is that, as we did last year, we will do again this year. We will be doing half-hour or so consultations with me personally, so that you can either come in and we can social distance with masks on, or we can Zoom, or we can do a phone call, so that I can give you a half an hour of feedback on your application and just sort of help you figure out whatever your questions are, so that you get some personal information. Those sessions, those personal private sessions with me will end on the 3rd of November. And I'm sure that there will be a few people at the last minute that will have questions. So we're going to open it up to just sort of a public Q&A session on November 9th. Let's see, the reason why I'm ending the info sessions, the personal sessions on the 3rd of November is I really just want to encourage everybody to get their application in. As the person who curates and handles exhibitions and Jerome and McKnight over the last few years, I know that 80% of the folks who apply in the last 48 hours. So I just want to warn everybody that comes to these sessions, please don't wait till the end. If your application is not completely uploaded by 5 p.m. on November 13th, the system will shut down. It's on a timer, and your application just will simply not be accepted. So make sure you get it in. Make sure that you give yourself some time just in case, I don't know, there's some crazy system overload. I've seen it happen with the web grant site for the State Arts Board. Those deadlines where it's 11:59 p.m. and everybody's got to get their Artist Initiative grant or whatever it is in. I have seen that system bogged down. So don't wait. I will just say right now, we actually already have 2 completed applications in, which shocked me today. They came in within 30 seconds of each other today. I was completely amazed. So anyway, I think it's going to be a competitive year. I think there's a lot of interest in the fellowships. We all know that everybody needs funding for their work. Arts funding, I don't want to say it's drying up. I think a lot of organizations are really putting forth to try to really help artists throughout the coming year with unemployment and the pandemic and everything else that's happening and that's going to happen. So yeah, get your application in, because we're excited about being able to have the fellowships in support of artists, and how do I say it? A high turnout of applications, I think, will help guarantee the longevity of this program for fiber artists. So I think as far as the website goes, I don't think there's a whole lot else I'm going to look at. What I do want to do is, before we go into the procedure, I'm just going to do a really, really quick run through of what happens when you apply. So you will access the application, and I simply just clicked on, I'll go back. I simply just clicked on the access to 2021 application here. So I am already registered with Submittable, and Submittable is the program that we use. It worked really, the platform we use, it worked really, really well last year for the jurors. It gives me a way to be able to package everything really easily. The jurors get to sort of go through the first round at their leisure, and then we convene to go through the semifinal and the final process. So it's been a super duper helpful platform for us. So we're using it again. When you successfully log into Submittable, this is what you will see. You'll see the Textile Center logo, but I'll go back a step, and that is, if you don't have Submittable, you simply just go to submittable.com. Let me move my little banner here. You sign in, and when you sign in, what happens is I have mine set up with my password and everything, so I see a welcome back prompt. If you haven't signed into Submittable before, set up an account. You'll have that account forever. And then once you sign in, you can go back. Let's see if I can get to the right. You can go back to the Textile Center page. Sorry, I went back too far. You'll go back to the center page, Textile Center page, click on apply here, and it will take you directly to the Textile Center application. And what you see underneath our logo is the 2021 McKnight Fellowships for Fiber Artists. And it's the only thing that the Textile Center has active right now. So you're going to click on apply and then go into the whole application process. Okay, so when I click on apply, it just automatically loads the entire application. The guidelines that I'm going to go over now for the next little bit, there are links to the guidelines everywhere. So if you need to get the guidelines through Submittable, you simply click on the click here for complete guidelines. I tried to make it big enough for everybody to see. And let's see, you can also, let me go back. There are a number of places to click for the guidelines. Okay, so whether it's from the home page of the website where it says click here for complete guidelines, or whether it's under the actual program guidelines and applications, it's all the same. So in order to have a meeting with me, we are making some requirements this year. I want everybody to sort of try to get onto at least an initial starting page before they call and ask for an appointment. So we're asking everybody to please attend an info session, watch the info session online. So this will be recorded and it will be put online probably later this week with a big link. Watch an info session online, and to make sure that everybody reads the guidelines, because we've been really, really careful over the last year and a half to make sure that as many questions as possible can be answered with the guidelines. So, you know, I probably, with both Jerome and McKnight, I do 40 sessions a year, and it takes a good, you know, it takes almost an entire week of my work, an entire work week out of my fall. So let's see. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get right into the guidelines. So when you click from the website onto the guidelines, you see, hold on just a second. I want to move my grid over to the side. There, now Karen, you're the only person I can see. Okay, so when you open the guidelines, it just pops up a PDF that's attached to our website, and it's 7 pages long, so it's very thorough. It will walk you step by step through the process, and I'm certainly not going to go through all of this boilerplate, but it talks about the fellowship period. And I'm going to say right now, I'm checking with the McKnight Foundation, but our fellowship period technically runs January 1st through December 31st. However, we are having an exhibition for the McKnight Fellows, and the first one will happen in January, February, and March of this year. It will open on January 11th. And so that 2-month or so period of the exhibition actually extends the fellowship period by a couple months. So I'm checking with the McKnight Foundation, and we may be just extending the period by 2 or 3 months, but that's all it is for, is just to cover ourselves during the exhibition. During the exhibition, we are also going to have a couple of panel discussions while the work is actually installed in the gallery, so that we can have a live feed from the gallery. And the artist can participate either in the gallery or from home, and the critic will participate virtually, I'm guessing. But just know that if you see that change, don't panic. It's just because we need to cover ourselves for the time that the work is in the gallery and that we have these panel discussions going on. The application period's open. The deadline is Friday the 13th. I was a little wary of that date, but I thought, good, get your applications in before Friday the 13th. It outlines the guidelines, and other information on the website outline the fellowship benefits. It's $25,000 unrestricted gift. Just to be clear, I think hopefully this is useful in terms of thinking about your proposal that and I'm not even going to call it a proposal, your fellowship package that you're putting together. You are being awarded, the fellows are awarded for the work that they have submitted in their proposal, in their package. Okay, you're not proposing a project. You're not telling them what you're going to do with the money necessarily. You're not being awarded because there's some merit involved in what you think you're going to do. This is not like any other grant program where you have to propose a project, or you have to put together a whole list of outcomes and then figure out how you're going to get there. You are being awarded for the work that is presented to the jury. Okay, so, you know, I will not stress this enough. You need to put your best work forward, a comprehensive portfolio of your best work. Okay, so there will be 3 critics. We are actually doing the critiques, the studio visits virtually. We'll be holding the first 2 studio visits with this year's fellows. They wanted to do it later in the year because the pandemic was so crazy, and they both teach, and things were so crazy that we just decided to wait until October and November. So they're really going to get their bulk of their feedback as they prepare for the exhibition and think about what's coming next. We will also have a critique while the work is up in the gallery, which they both wanted. So I work with the fellows to figure out who the critics are going to be and how the critics will best inform their studio practice or whatever conversation is that is going to happen. So there will be an exhibition. We're planning again for an exhibition in the Joan Mondale Gallery. There will be 2 public discussions as part of the exhibition. There's professional development support, so there's a small amount of money that's additional in addition to the fellowship that we give the fellows specifically for building a website, having an exhibition, travel expenses for an exhibition, taking a professional development workshop, that sort of thing. You get access to the Textile Center resources, and then you also get a series of support sessions from consultants at Springboard for the Arts. I can't remember how many sessions. It's somewhere around 4 or 5 sessions, I think, if you want to do any consultations with them. It can be everything from talking about your writing to talking about tax implications, talking about legal implications, accounting, whatever it is. Again, eligibility requirements. I want to say the real major ones are that you have to have resided in Minnesota for a year prior to the application deadline. The deadline is November 13th, so we go back a year. When you submit your application, please make sure that you include documentation of that entire year. So I'm not going to get into the application too in depth, but it's pretty well spelled out. If you send me an expired driver's license, I'm going to kick your application back and ask you to send me a new one. Okay, so just please double check your documentation when you submit it. You cannot have received a McKnight Artist Fellowship within any discipline in the last 5 years. So the dates are spelled out. 2016 through 2020, fellows are ineligible. You cannot apply for more than 1 McKnight Fellowship of any sort in a particular fiscal year, and we are moving right now into 2021. So the cohort of programs, we all share names and information. So if you apply to textile and fiber, you can't apply to book arts or visual arts. Let's see, and then again, I think I mentioned it, not enrolled in a full-time academic program. Pretty straightforward. So ask me if you have any questions about any of those points, please ask. Get a hold of me, let me know, and I can certainly also check with the McKnight Foundation if I don't know. So we go into the program guidelines and application process. Again, I'm reminders everywhere of what the deadlines are. The application system, again, is submittable. There's written directions step-by-step on how to open submittable and how to apply. You just can't forget to click the apply button at the very end. And then the guidelines go into some detail about the process. So I'm going to go through a few of these, and then I'm going to touch on a few points in the application that they're related to, and then we can do some questions. Let's see. The number one thing, and I think this is just a tip, this is the number one thing that is considered for your application. It is the work samples, and honestly, that's the reason it's the first thing on the list. Okay, so if something was more important than the work samples, I certainly would have put it first, but it's 10 digital images of your work. They have to be a JPEG, either JPG or JPEG format. You cannot put any identifying information on your images, so do not put the titles, the dimensions, don't have an indicia buried in the background of the image. Any images that aren't correct, I reject them and I reopen your application. So here's what will happen. If you do something wrong, I actually take the time to vet every single application, which means I have to review every single thing to make sure that you're not sharing your name where you're not supposed to, and that your images and everything are correct. And if there's something wrong with your application, and I'm going to put, this is the caveat, if I have time to review it, I will kick your application back to you and reopen it. If you apply at the last minute and I don't have time to review your application and I can't get back to you, then your application may get disqualified just because you didn't follow the directions. Okay, so I have to say we didn't have anybody with that issue last year. We had to reopen a number of applications, but everybody turned right around and fixed whatever they needed to do, and they gave us enough time. Talks about the maximum file size. You know, if you upload something too big, the system isn't going to let you hit submit. So it's pretty foolproof. We suggest that you submit your best work, and absolutely your best work and your best images. And we are suggesting the last 6 to 10 years. I'm going to just personally say, I think that's a really almost an extreme window. What is considered a mid-career artist now is 8 years and beyond. That means that you have to be able to prove 8 years of professional art experience, and that's kind of a wide open category. And that is proven by your resume. It's not proven by showing us images of your artwork that go back for 20 years. So I'm going to just say right now that what the jury is looking for is really solid, strong body of work or series of pieces that are tied together. You know, so if you're showing something over 10 years, then I think, you know, there are several reasons that it might go that far. It's because either you work very large and you only make 1 or 2 pieces a year, or that there is a really strong thematic development that merits inclusion of work that's that old. So, you know, when I say you're competing, but you are on a level, you're competing with a lot of other artists who, you know, we see it more and more every year. They are barely making that 8-year cutoff. So you really don't want to put work out there that's much older than that. You know, the jury is also thinking about where, in their minds, they can't help but think about where you might go with the fellowship and with the money. And so showing them that you have had a very active practice over the last several years and that it's moving in a really strong direction is a really, it can be really helpful to your application. So I said upload and organize your images in order that you want the jurors to view them. That's really important. If you put the number 1, like my name's Crum, if I put 1 Crum, 2 Crum, 3 Crum, just because I name them like that doesn't mean they're going to see them in that order unless you upload them in that order. Okay. And then we also ask, you got to make sure that your images are saved in a JPEG format where they are correctly rotated, because you don't want your images to appear sideways. And I will tell you right now, I can help upload a lot of things, new documents or things that are corrected. Like, let's say you don't have your driver's license and you don't have time to upload it. It's possible. You could email it to me and I can do it, but I cannot touch your images. I cannot touch anybody's images. So if you do something wrong with your images, I have to get back to you and ask you to fix it. Okay. So I will look at the images. If I think something's wrong, I may ask you to go back in and check your file, but it's up to you to make sure everything's correct. We don't allow composite images. So that means don't take an overall view and then put a little tiny detail down in the corner. Okay. It's one piece of artwork per image, unless it's an installation shot. Okay. So you can't take Photoshop and put work together. But if you want to give context to your portfolio and an installation shot or a runway shot or something helps to contextualize the images that you've submitted, then by all means, you can use that. Image list, pretty clear title, dimensions, materials, techniques, and year. You will also be asked to upload metadata for every image that you put into submittable. And what the metadata does is it puts the information about the image in a little tiny box in the corner so that the jurors can click on it really easily and they can see the metadata without having to look at your image list. And it's really, really super helpful to do that. So a few people chose not to do it, and I'm going to tell you, you want to make the jurors happy, you know, in terms of the ease of reviewing your application. If you make it really, really difficult to see what the heck it is they're looking
I don't think I'm applying for this year, but maybe next year or the year after.
Oh,
At least get an idea.
All right. Sorry, I muted Elijah. Let's see. Artist statement. You've got to include an artist statement. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about that, but that's something that we can have a conversation about. You are not writing a proposal, okay? So just talk, you want to tell a story about your work. You know, how you got to where you are. We throw some suggestions in there. How do you contextualize your work in the terms of contemporary art? You know, these are questions that are potentially going to come up if you are selected to have a conversation with the jurors. They're going to ask you, what do you think the future direction of your work is? You don't necessarily have to write it down because you're not preparing a proposal, but these are questions that, you know, any professional artist, I think, should have some clue about. Let's see. And then there always is a question about, you know, why would this fellowship be important for you right now? Resume is required. I believe the resume, I will add some info to this, but I think that we've limited it to just a few pages, and I will have to check. I'm sure it says it on the form. And I'm making a note here. Proof of Minnesota residency, and that's it. And then you say, I'm not a robot, and you hit the submit button and your proposal goes out. So with Submittable, you can save your proposal and you can return to it later. You don't have to submit it all in one fell swoop, which is really nice. So let's see. So you can work on it over the next couple weeks or couple months, whatever you want to do. I'm going to talk a little bit about the selection process. This I know pretty much off the top of my head. What happens is the jurors receive all of the applications. They're given a period of a week or two to review all of the initial applications. They send me a rank order of who they want to consider in a discussion with the rest of their peers, with the rest of the jurors. And typically what happens is each juror will pick 6 to 8 candidates that they want to move forward into a group discussion, and then we have a group discussion. And that lasts, let's see, do you want the applicant to, so I'm just jumping because I see a question. You do not have to connect with me before you submit your application. If you feel good about it and you are ready to go, just tap out and send it in. Like I said, I already got 2 applications today, which shocked me because I haven't gotten any phone calls or anything. We haven't even done an info session yet. So yeah, so anyway, the jurors will review. We have a very long discussion where they review all of their top candidates, and it could, depending on the crossover with the jury, it can be anywhere between 8 and 15 probably semifinalists, and then they select 4 finalists that they invite to do studio visits. And like I said, of the current year, everything is happening virtually. So we will be conducting virtual studio visits with the finalists. And I'm going to say, I don't know the details right now, but we're anticipating that this will happen around the middle of December. It can either happen from your studio, or if you're selected as a finalist and you need to come into Textile Center to set up a few pieces in our auditorium, we will facilitate whatever needs to happen so that everybody gets to have a good presentation. Last year we had all of the finalists come to Textile Center because we wanted there to be an equal platform for displaying the work. We didn't want there to be judgments about people's studio spaces and what their houses look like and whether they had this or whether they had that. So we gave the finalists space at Textile Center, and we may very well do the same thing. We may ask the finalists to come in and use the space in our auditorium, and we'll do the live Zoom sessions with the jurors. So anyway, that remains to be sorted out, but we still have a few things to iron out. So just hang in there. And then this talks about the second round process, and it's the conference call with the jurors. So info sessions, there's a couple of links here that get you back to those special pages. Like I said, there's going to be a recording of the session. Any additional sessions will be advertised in our Textiles on the Town. And I think that does it for that. So I'm going to go to Submittable, And I'm going to sign in and I'm going to see what happens. So I'm going to go to my own submission. And this is a dummy submission that I made last year. And I'm just going to open it so you can see, look, I declined myself, but this is a dummy submission that I made last year. So we will actually be putting a video online this year in the next week or two that goes through an application, because we have to make sure that everyone is comfortable with exactly how the whole application process happens. So when you go to Submittable, you're going to see the eligibility requirements. You're gonna agree true that you're eligible. You're gonna fill in your name and your address, and then you get to your work samples. And there's some prompts that says up, you know, say basically what the guidelines say about rotating your images, et cetera, et cetera. And then you start uploading your work samples. So any of you who've seen this, here I had uploaded Richard Saja. And I would upload 10 work samples. So at the end, I would see actually 10 of these images. I would upload an image list, and we ask everybody, it talks about the formats. It says, this isn't the actual application process, but it tells you exactly on the application what formats to use. We tend to ask people to use a PDF because that way it can't be altered, okay? There's no concern with anything being altered. So there's an image list, there's your artist statement, there's your resume, there's proof of Minnesota residency. You can upload, I think, up to 6 documents for your residency. We do have people send in the utility bills and things like that. And then the demographic information, I'm going to just clarify this, that we really ask for the demographic information so that we can assess whether we're achieving our diversity objectives. And those objectives are really with regard to the outreach that we do to get people to apply for the fellowships. Okay, so we need to make sure that we are really reaching a broad spectrum of community members in the state of Minnesota. So our list, and this is actually my final application, but our list for demographics includes 10 things, and you just check off whatever you want. We don't separate race, ethnicity, gender, any of that. You can just check, it's just all in one big list, and you can just check whatever you want, and that's how we do it. So the submission process is fairly simple. I think what I'm gonna do is open up to questions, because I'm sure last year I had a lot more to say because it was the very first time we did it and people had never seen the guidelines or the application or hadn't used Submittable. Why don't you guys, just since there aren't a whole lot of us, why don't you just unmute yourself if you have any questions that you want to ask? And I'll do my best to referee. I'm actually gonna pause my screen sharing so that I can open up. Oh, I don't think it's gonna make any difference. There, I can just open up. Does anybody have any questions? I'm not seeing it. Oh, Chris. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I'm wondering if there's also going to be a published catalog or postcard for publicity reasons, and for I guess a catalog, you know, even if it's just a brochure kind of catalog for your record.
For the exhibition?
Right. If you were awarded one, or just to keep in your file of interest.
Okay, so let me tell you what we are going to do. Right now, we don't have plans to actually publish a catalog. I'm gonna talk a little bit about what other organizations have done and why we're not doing it. So the Visual Artists Awards, which are facilitated by MCAD, used to publish a catalog. And the reason the reason they were able to publish a catalog is they had 6 to 8 fellows, and they had enough in a budget to publish a really nice catalog. Mm-hmm. What happened after a number of years of the publication was that the artists really decided they didn't need the catalog. Their work and actually MCAD doesn't even do an exhibition anymore. The work, I was a visual artist fellow, and so I completely understand this. I was a visual artist fellow with, you know, conceptual artists, photographers, painters, you know, people, you know, all kinds of different things. And our work was all so different that it really didn't make sense for us to have an exhibition together or to spend the funds on a catalog. So what MCAD rather led the way, I would say. They started offering a supplemental award to the artists, which is the professional development funds that I mentioned in the beginning. So we give an additional award. You basically have to just send me, the fellows send me an email and they tell me what they want to spend the additional funds on. It's somewhere, you know, between $1,000 and $2,000, so that they can either publish something on their own, take a class, work on a website or what have you. So Textile Center, we do hire a professional photographer to document the work and the exhibition. So you will walk out with a, you know, masterfully photographed portfolio, which is a huge, you know, benefit, I think, for a lot of artists, especially if you haven't really had your work photographed consistently. So we are also using that now. We're doing virtual exhibits of all of our exhibitions now and putting those online. So right now, for us to think about publishing, you know, I guess you guys see it at Textile Center, we don't even print anything anymore. We actually are printing a postcard to announce McKnight to the greater state because the McKnight Foundation pays for it, but they're not funding us to do a publication. So yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think the plan is with the show in January, we'll probably do a print postcard now that Textile Center is actually open again, and it will be a reminder. You know, it's kind of nice actually in this day and age to get a piece of mail with a picture on it. but you know, it kind of reminds people that we're open and that the show is open to the public. But yeah, no plans to do a catalog at this point.
Thank you.
Yep. What else? Other questions? I mean, I think I can't emphasize the photography enough. I mean, I really can't. And so I'll say a couple of things about the meetings with me. I am not allowed to advise you this is what your artist statement should say, or, you know, do that sort of heavy sort of editing. And so we do recommend, if people need help, start watching now. Springboard for the Arts, of course, has free workshops. They have paid consultations if you really need one. You know, I think there are plenty of people out there that can probably read for you. We've asked we recommended last year that folks have an editor, have a second pair of eyes, have somebody help you figure out how to, you know, which order to put things in, and is your statement strong enough, et cetera, et cetera. I will look at images just to talk to you about the quality of your images and give you a really frank opinion about, you know, there's way too much background going on. You know, you really should think about rephotographing. You know, I think I can probably stick my neck out there far enough and say, you know, your portfolio is too disparate. I mean, you really should try to focus on some more depth in your series of images. Those kind of really general feedback points I'm happy to give, but, you know, in terms of like helping you know how to use Photoshop so you can make pictures look like but you know, at this point, I think the thing is that this is a really, really high level fellowship. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I will tell you right now, we have Glenn Adamson. Anybody knows Glenn Adamson? He was the head of the Craft Museum of Art and Design. He's been at the V&A. He wrote the books about thinking through making and thinking through craft and all of that sort of stuff, everything that you want. He's one of our critics this year, you know, and hopefully he'll come back and do a panel discussion in January when the fellows have their show up. Jessica Hemmings, who is at the University of Gothenburg, who has been a really amazing, you know, champion of fiber arts. written a lot of done a lot of critical thinking, written a lot of critical text about fiber and craft. She will be a critic this year. So, you know, the really great thing about the program is that, you know, it's so high level that I can ask anybody to participate. And it's actually really amazing this year because Jessica's over in Sweden, but since we have COVID-19, I don't have to worry about getting her on an airplane to get her here. So, you know, we're going to take advantage, if we can, of a couple of some international visitors this year and probably next year, because I don't think the situation is going to change anytime soon. You know, if people aren't comfortable coming, we want to give them a different way to participate. So I'm really excited. I mean, I think this is, you know, there's a silver lining to all of this craziness. And, you know, I think it's really, part of it has to do with the caliber of people that are willing to participate. You know, our jurors last year were Alyssa Author, who's the chief curator at the Museum of Art and Design, and Mark Newport, and Karen Hampton. So, you know, and they were just, for our first year, they were really amazing to have come in. And Arleta Little from McKnight sat in on the whole process. And, you know, it was just a really amazing experience. And I'm going to just tell you, and I've said this before, just putting your work in front of the jurors is a huge thing. You know, I think about even just opportunities I've had. I had some experiences just putting my own work out 20 or 30 years ago in front of some really amazing jurors. And no, I didn't get a residency at Franconia, but I got a show at the Kohler Art Center, you know, so stuff happens. And, you know, so I'm trying to keep the caliber of people who are going to be spending the time looking at your applications as high as possible, because it's becomes part of the network of Textile Center and of Minnesota artists. So other questions? Because I don't want to keep everybody on here if you're good. I'm really glad we didn't have 38 people. It's all right. It would have been okay. What about, no? Any other questions? Anything else you guys can think about? You know, the sooner you get working on your proposal, the sooner I can take a look at your images. And, you know, I think because we don't have the opportunity to do the really in-person, easy in-person consultations this year, I will be going back and forth with people through email. We'll have to try to keep it concise, but I want to ask that folks who do want to have info sessions with me, and I'm saying some of this because hopefully some people will watch this video when we get it online, but come prepared with your materials as much as possible, because you don't want to waste 20 or 30 minutes with me and not have any idea about what it is you want me to respond to. So please come to the session with questions about, you know, whether it's the body of work you're presenting or whether it's how your statement fits with the body of work. And I'm just going to say again, it's not a proposal. You do not have to give us a budget. We don't want a budget. We don't want to see a budget. We just want to see a statement and your resume that proves you are worthy of this mid-career, you know, whatever category, and really you know, excellence in the images, because you're being awarded the fellowship for the portfolio that you submit. So, and that was actually really good. I've had Arleta Little from McKnight mention that several times, and I think it's just really, really important for everybody to know. It's not what you think you're going to do, it's what you're showing. Yeah. So it really is an honor to receive the award. So, and you fellows are doing great, and hopefully folks will come and see their exhibition in January and February. And yeah. Okay, are we good? Are we ready to adjourn? Wow. Okay, so thank you guys. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
tcrum@textilecentermn.org if you need me, and I look forward to seeing your applications. Thank you all. Have a great night.
Tracy.
Okay, bye.